Of course. Of course.
They're a little late. You were right on time.
Yeah, this is, Senate Studio, do you see and hear me?
Don't wait for me. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is Nelson.
No, I'll wait. Not a problem.
Yeah, this is, I'm coming out of one, all right, out of Senate Studio.
I wish I could get senators away from you.
Thank you, Senator.
Sorry.
All set?
He's on stage right, he's on the podium.
Okay. Take your time. Take your time.
Yeah, that's it. Just turn on your mic, Alex.
Hey, Alex, where's your colleague, Alex?
I saw him in Gallery Hill.
Yes, but I just don't want to have to repeat it.
Thank ABC for helping me just, all right, we made it, AP is behind me, so,
Okay, we're good.
and
All set.
Senator Nelson is waiting for him.
We're just not used to senators being
All right.
punctual.
You know, that's true around here.
Thanks.
Really is.
Thanks, everybody. We're good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
All right, Secretary Azar is going to be testifying in front of the Senate Finance Committee tomorrow. I'm going to be asking him, and I'm giving him some advance notice, that I expect a series of answers to a series of questions that I have not been able to get thus far. Why were members of Congress turned away from the detention facility in Homestead on Tuesday, but suddenly on Friday decided to admit my colleague in the Senate, and then on Saturday admitted some of us? Why did they not answer the questions of why they would not let me talk to the children? Why would they not let me talk to the 70 children that they said that they had that day that had been separated from their parents? Earlier in the week, it was 94 children. Why did they? When we talked to one of the case managers, and in which I asked of the children being reunited, may I talk to that person? She said that that person was not there, that they worked Monday through Friday. And of course, I was there on Saturday. And so I asked the name of that person that has the responsibility for the contractor to reunite the children with their parents. She gave me the name Barbara Flotus, of which I told them all of the people, and there was a representative from HHS in Washington that was there. I said, I will be calling Barbara Flotus on Monday morning. And we have tried numerous times this morning with no response from HHS. So I will be asking Mr. Secretary, what are you hiding? The very person that we have been told that is reuniting the children, if that's the truth, then that's a good thing. Well, why can't we confirm that? And then I will also be asking the Secretary, Mr. Secretary, the existing law is under the Flores settlement that a child cannot be kept in detention for more than 20 days. So why are not only these 70 children separated from their families, their moms and dads, But the other children, why are they here obviously in a long-term situation? And the answer that I was given on Saturday was, this isn't a detention facility. This is a shelter, or a legal fiction, in other words, is the answer. I'll be calling on the Secretary to explain to the American people under oath where these children are right now and where their parents are, and if we can still talk to Barbara Flotus, who can give us an up-to-date answer as to the reunification of the children with their families. And why is HHS continuing to deny us access to the children that have been separated? I'm giving this advance notice to Secretary Azar so that he's going to have plenty of time to find the answer, to fully answer these questions at tomorrow's hearing, because this is not only what's in the interest of the children who have been taken away from their parents, it's obviously an interest of the United States, American people, that they know that children are being handled in a way that is commensurate with American values. En español, ahora mismo, el gobierno está entre los padres y sus niños. Es muy triste, es muy malo. No es un valor de America. What I said is that the government has put itself in between the children and their parents. It's very sad because what they're doing is not an American value. As a matter of fact, it's un-American. Okay, your questions. Yes, ma'am.
Would you be willing to offer any ideas for why you think it has been so difficult up to this point for members of Congress like you to gain access and talk to these children?
Now, what is the question?
Why do you think they're not being more forthcoming with you?
Well, either they are petrified that the wrath of the president is going to come down on their head if they do anything that they think displeases the president, or there's something that they're trying to hide. Now, sooner or later, this is going to come out, because folks like you all are going to keep asking the questions, and so are people like me. And eventually, we're going to find out why these children were forcibly taken away from their parents. Why do we hear this morning that a 3-month-old child has been carried off to New York and that they're being dispersed? When I was there on Saturday, the only thing I knew is that it was a total of 174 children in Florida, and those were in 3 different locations in Miami. The bulk of them, initially we were told 94, was in the detention center in Homestead. Another one was at a Catholic Charities facility in Miami, and there was a third one as well. And so eventually we're going to find out. But right now you ask, why are they denying it? Either they're scared to death that this is going to displease the president, whatever they say, and that might be why they are not responding to what I told them on Saturday when I was given the name of the lady whose responsibility it is to put these children back with their parents. That might be why that they're not responding, that they're just scared to death. The other thing that's obvious is there is no plan. This was obvious when I was there on Saturday in talking with the workers there. I've already said in my press statement when I walked out of the gates on Saturday that the lady that was briefing us about this, an employee of the company, said that most of the 70 children had been able to talk to their parents on the phone. I said, now, what does that mean? How many have not? She said, just a handful. So, that's a good thing. Well, then why won't, when I ask, well, let me talk to the person that is having this responsibility of reuniting them, of which she said, well, she's not here. She only works Monday through Friday. And I said, what is her name? And the lady gave me her name. So we'll find out. More than likely, it's one of those two answers to your question as to why they're reluctant and refuse to show us something. Yes, ma'am.
Were you surprised to learn that Senator Rubio had been allowed inside this facility after you had been pressing for entrance for, a matter of days?
I don't in any way fault Senator Rubio. I was told that I could go on Saturday. I first, because of a schedule we had that day, requested not to go at 1 o'clock, but to go at 11 o'clock. And I was told, no, if you're going to go, you can only be given entrance between 1 and 2:30. Now, am I surprised? This is the most partisan administration that in all my years of representing Florida up here, and I'm going back to my House days, that I've ever seen. Decisions are being made on the basis of pure partisan politics. That's what it appears to be that they decided to let Marco in. And in no way do I in any way impugn Marco because he needs to go and see this whenever he can get in. But it's obvious that it's another example of the partisanship that is going on. As you know, Marco and I have a good relationship and we do things together. And when I left here on Thursday, I had said to him, I'm going on Saturday. Can you come with me? And he said, I'm going to try because I want to go. That's next thing I know is that it's already done. Yes, sir.
Are undocumented migrants entitled to due process of law? The president is tweeting that they should not be.
Well, until they are determined to be in a certain status, they are entitled to the law as it is. And the law as it is says that you have a right to come and to have your case adjudicated in seeking asylum for reasons to determine if they're legitimate. The people that we're talking about, they're not from Mexico. They're not from South America. People we're talking about are primarily from 3 countries, Honduras, El Salvador, and Guatemala. And they are fleeing a chaotic situation where young men are told they will be killed unless they join the gang, and young women are subject to all kind of violence. And so they have a right to have the case adjudicated to see if that merits, in the eyes of a judge, meeting the standard of asylum which America has always welcomed. So that's what it is. And that's what the president, I take it, has glossed over. Alex, and then I'll get you, and then I'll come over here.
Senator, what's your level of comfort with the information that's available to yourself and the public on these privately operated immigration centers across the U.S., including Florida? Do you feel like you know enough about them? And also, have you raised questions before? You know, in 2014, different circumstances, but there was a controversy about the Obama administration holding children as well. Did you raise questions then?
Well, as to your first question, your newspaper has already raised the questions about this specific contractor in Homestead and the connections that it has with some members of the Republican Party. So I'll let that story by Steve Bosquet just stand on its own. As to the second issue, we never, your question about Obama, we never had this question of children being ripped from their families, their immediate families, their moms and dads. This was not a question during Obama. This question just came up. And for those who criticize us and say that, well, we knew about this detention facility several months ago. No, we did not know about this detention facility as a place where children are who had been separated from their families until last Monday, and that's why I went last Tuesday to see those children. You, sir, and then I promised over here. Yes, go ahead.
You mentioned earlier the 20-day requirement in the Flores settlement. That deals with ICE custody, which is different than the HHS facility that it sounds like you visited. I'm trying to find out what you're asking for in terms of mentioning the 20-day release.
I'm asking why are children being held that have been separated from their families? Why are they being held more than 90 days when, in fact, the Flores settlement is directly on point?
That applies only to ICE. When you visited an HHS facility, the Trafficking Victim Protection Act says that those children are supposed to be...
I don't care. Whatever the legalities are that you're trying to distinguish, that to me is balderdash. This is a question of human values. You don't separate children. And we also have a policy of 20 days for a child in detention. These children are there longer than 20 days. Yes, sir.
It looks like neither body will be able to pass any sort of legislation that's narrow, whether you like it or not, what the policy might be, on border separation before the July 4th recess. What does that mean if this continues to drift it later into July and perhaps even toward the August recess?
What does it mean legally, or what does it mean politically?
What happens here? You know, we have this executive order. Some people think that it created some additional problems by doing that, and then Congress isn't acting at all on the narrow issue of the border separation.
The executive order is a sham. It was an attempt to divert attention. The executive order does not address the 2,300 children that were separated from their families. Period.
But what about Congress being unable to act to do this? I mean, Congress would always rather act.
If I had my druthers, if we were in control, if we were in the majority, we'd be pounding this through. But don't take away from the accountability of the president. He could do this with the stroke of his pen. He wouldn't even have to do it with his pen. All he'd have to do is say it, and it'd be done.
Can I ask you one follow-up to that?
Okay, let me give somebody else a chance, and I'll come back to you. Yes, ma'am.
I was wondering if you had any sense of how many kids 5 years old and under were at the facility, if they provided that information?
What we were told is that of the 70, first it was 94. We were told that they were in the ages of 13 to 17. I do not have confidence in that because I was not able to talk to the children. Yes, ma'am.
Do you think Democrats should be pursuing broader immigration reform as a reaction to this new policy or whatever status it is, but the issue of family separation? Or do you think Democrats are on safer ground strictly addressing this particular issue?
Democrats are always pursuing broader immigration reform. And this senator and a lot of other senators, including Republican senators, voted 6 years ago for comprehensive immigration reform. We're always ready for that, but we're not the ones that control because we're not in the majority. If we were, I think you'd see that happening and happening fast. Yes, sir, and then I'll get to you, sir.
Last week, people who were upset about what was happening at these detention facilities basically shamed Secretary Nielsen out of a restaurant. Over this weekend, Sarah Huckabee Sanders was kicked out of a Virginia restaurant. Do you think that's an effective or appropriate way to push back against the administration, or is it a sign of incivility?
If anyone knows me, they know that my modus operandi is to always try to bring people together instead of divide them. I always try to treat the other person with respect. I would hope that other people would do that as well. What I see is a lot of frustration that is building up. So down there in Homestead, as I talked to the press after I walked out of the gates, there were people there trying to shout me down. Now, that's their free First Amendment right, but that's not a respectful way to go about dealing with a problem. And so I would always hope that we would appeal to our better angels. But what I find is that sometimes it doesn't happen that way. Yes, sir.
Do you support the Tillis-Cornyn bill that would basically overrule the Flores Agreement, and where do things stand with Feinstein's talk with Republicans on fairness of
Okay, the one that you're referring to, Tillis, I'm not familiar with that one. On Feinstein, I am a co-sponsor of Feinstein, and it's my understanding that she has the co-sponsorship of all people, Ted Cruz, and that this is on the specific issue that it is the law, if passed, that you don't separate children from parents. And I certainly hope that that might have a chance of moving, but in this environment where everybody's scared of the president, correct that. Where all the Republicans elected leaders are scared of the president, I'm not sure that legislation is going to move. All right, let me come over here. Somebody had one over here. All right. Yes, sir. Alex, we missed you.
Have you got any ultimate answers as to who made the decision to not let you and W. Wasserman Schultz into the center last Wednesday? Was it a decision made by the detention center facility itself, or was it a decision made by an HHS official? Who made that call? I'll
tell you exactly what I think, and I have, that question was asked earlier. Let me sharpen it. We were told by Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who had talked to a friend that was an employee of the company, that she and I were going to be allowed in. So since American Airlines was a little late, as I am driving from the Miami airport on Tuesday to the facility, I get on the phone with the deputy secretary. I called for Secretary Azar. He was at his college reunion, and I was given the deputy secretary, Eric Hargan, and we had a rather heated conversation, of which he said, the policy of the department is that you fill out the forms, which I had the previous day, and you have to wait 2 weeks. To which I replied, Mr. Secretary, you and I both know that that's bull hockey, and this is what you've been ordered if you stand by that policy. I said, Mr. Secretary, why wouldn't it be in your interest if these facilities are nice and clean and so orderly, et cetera, that you would not want me to come out and give a report? And he said, and this is over a 10 or 15-minute conversation, that's the policy of the department that you have to wait 2 weeks. And so I got there. They denied me entry. It was obvious that the people that were handling that were embarrassed. And so I was denied entry on Tuesday. It's interesting that they didn't enforce their 2-week thing suddenly on Friday. And then they they allowed Marco and the press to come in, but not to talk to anybody. And then, of course, the rest of us on Saturday. So it's pretty obvious, to answer your question, that this was being directed from on high. And that's why I say that I think then commensurate with the responses that we got and why we're not getting an answer to Barbara Flortis for me to talk to her about the reunification of the children, since she was identified as the person who is doing that and has that responsibility in that facility, and yet they're denying me the opportunity thus far to do that. And I will be asking Secretary Azar that tomorrow. I'm giving you a heads up, Mr. Secretary. Yes, sir.
Senator, short of a policy change, I know what you're going to ask the Secretary, but what could he say that would be satisfactory to you?
He could come clean and he could say, Senator, it was a mistake to deny you because we don't have anything to hide. It's a mistake not to let you talk to the woman that you were given that is reunifying children because she is doing that and doing it successfully. If he did that, it'd put a whole new light on it. But they've done exactly the opposite. They've kept us out. They don't answer questions. They don't let us talk to the children. And now, apparently, the very woman that was tasked with reunification, who was identified by a co-worker on Saturday, now they are denying me talking to her as I'm trying to call. Any more questions? Okay, thanks a lot.